Hello and welcome to Mitch, the EXJW. Um, I'm glad you're here. What am I going to be talking about today? Let's talk about new light. And I think we're all familiar with that, um, being in the JW world. Every time the governing body came up with something, a change in particular is what I'm getting at. They said it was new light. And what are they talking about? They're saying Jehovah has helped them to come to a new understanding of a particular truth or a man made rule that they pushed on us. And I started questioning when they would do things like this, back when I was like a teenager. And as the years progressed, um, I just kept on. I had questions in my mind, I had doubts. It's like when I was young, they pushed that generation that was alive in 1914, like they would see the conclusion of the system of things. And so when you're all in and when you're a witness, you all know it's like that's what we're taught, that's what we believe. It's like indoctrinated in us. And so, when I'm an adult and I get a change on something that has just been something that we've stood on, like, whether it's out in the ministry, workmate, schoolmate, relative, it's like we are standing on that generation thought that we had. So imagine my surprise, as an adult when they changed it. And he laid out this whole like diagram on, you know, where they got the word from, and oh look, if we take the context around that word, we come to this conclusion now that generations can overlap. Most people talking to him after the meeting, they're in awe. They hold the governing body, like they put them on a pedestal, they elevate them. And so they were happy. Um, Me, on the other hand, like I said, it just um, put that doubt in my head again. Hold on. Sorry. I was making sure something was on. But it reiterated those doubts that I had. And now as an adult and thinking more critically, like, it may have made you feel, it just made me feel weird. And I even have a video of this on my TikTok. It's like two different clips put together, but the first clip is like one of the helpers to the governing body giving a service talk. And he's saying how we have to have humility. And when we make a mistake, we admit it because that's what, true Christians do. Then it fades to the other video. This is a governing body member pretty much blaming Jehovah. He said when they get things wrong and they have to adjust the understanding, they don't need to apologize. They don't need to explain it. Like, it was pretty blunt. Pretty much saying you all are supposed to accept what we tell you and just go with it. Live your lives accordingly. And, just hearing that video, he went on to say the way he blamed Jehovah. He said Jehovah is the one that keeps making the light brighter. And so when he changes, we go too. And you know what? That made me mad. That infuriated me because we know God does not change. Principles that, we base our life on in the Bible, they don't change. Humans change. And so to have the audacity to say pretty much, well, blame Jehovah as his fault, he makes the light brighter progressively. When we say things and we get it wrong, we don't need to apologize. Like, how can someone listen to that and honestly go with it, accept it? Like, that doesn't touch you somewhere in here when you hear that? And I know, like I said, I was a witness for over 50 years. I know how it is when you're on that side and you're in the organization. Um, you just don't want to think ill of the organization. You don't want to think they can do anything wrong. And trust me, as I started my deconstruction of the mindset I had in the organization, like when you're on the outside looking in and you're deconstructing what's been ingrained in you, you really start to open your eyes and see everything for what it was. It was certain parts I feel are a sham. It's a front, not truthful. And that's the part dealing with humans and the governing body and the helpers who share and doing what they do. The part of it, because someone asked me this when I did a post about me as a 17-year-old and things I was doing and progressing even in work, and they asked me, "Do you think that the truth had anything to do with it?" And by all means, it did. Like, they are scam artists, but they have to base it on truth. So they taught, for the most part, things in the Bible. And like I said earlier, God doesn't change. So we were learning principles and ways to live that God accepts. And so that part of it, yeah, I'm appreciative. It helped make me, the person I am, and instill morals in me. But the part that I don't understand how someone can just sit there is like the constant changes. I just gave you one example. The viewpoint on generations that they adjusted, so we had to adjust. I mean, the changes there's been. Brothers can wear beards. If you're not on the platform or have some other assignment, you may not need to wear a jacket or a necktie. The females can wear slacks or pants if they want to. Now, if you're thinking critically, if it's not something directly in the Bible that it would go against God, you have to think, why were these the rules for so long? Some of them even stumbling one to not even want to be associated with the organization anymore. Y- Like, that doesn't make you question things, and then all of a sudden it's okay. Like, did it make you ask yourself why? Why is it okay now that I can wear a beard? And like, the thing that got me too with the beard part was it was acceptable in certain areas of the world, but like where I live in the United States, it was always so strict, clean shaven, and I remember we moved from the north part of the country down south. So up north, the brothers at the time, you got to think this is the 70s, early 80s. Some of the brothers had these thick sideburns, and they said, as long as you don't drop them below the earlobes, you would still look presentable. Okay. Moved down south to a southern state, and my father, he had his sideburns, and they were like, "Oh yeah, here it needs to be this part of the ear," and it's like all these little byproducts of the rules we already have were in effect, depending apparently where you lived in the country, and it's like, why is it okay now? It could have always been okay. Sisters, man, like these sisters, I'm getting pictures from like Houston and Atlanta where I used to live, and the sisters where I'm living now, and they were like coming in with some nice like pantsuits and looking presentable, and I'm like, they could have been doing this. It's accepted in the business world. That's what they said, as a matter of fact, when they were giving us the okay to do it, you know. And now it's the toasting or saying cheers. And that one bothers me too for two different reasons. But one is like, okay, I haven't talked to anyone. I'm gonna I'm pretty damn sure I have never talked to a witness and they were like, you know what, I wish we could toast. I've never talked to a witness about that. I've talked to brothers who are like, man, I wish we could have beards. Like it would be neat and trim, but we can't do it. You can do it, but like you wouldn't be able to have any privileges within the congregation. And so it's like things like that just make me think. And now that I'm in the um, EXJW groups, it's like so many others had these questions and had these doubts. The huge reason they didn't want us to get online that much because they know we would find each other. Those of us who have, decided to leave. And then I think about too like the PMOs um, acronym for physically in, mentally out. They still associate with the organization, go to meetings for whatever reason. I've heard so many like valid reasons, and I think about them. They don't even want to be there, and they have to put up with all this crap firsthand. And you have to be there listening to members of the congregation justify another governing body change. And that's just too much emphasis on rules and power and control. I don't know about you all, but I didn't like to feel like I was being controlled. Like, I give respect and humility where it's due. So, like, I have no problem with God or anything, but when it came to a human, like, I have a problem for someone just having so much control. And, I did a couple of videos this week about that too on my TikTok and Instagram about how much of a high control organization slash cult the Jehovah's Witnesses live in. And yeah, the the other part about the toasting, because I said it was two things that bother me. That was one. The second thing is, and I've posted some, others have posted some, but it's like articles that they have written about toasting. and they were very, very adamant. It has pagan backgrounds, and you could be doing this with the demons or letting them in when you do that. And they were very adamant about not toasting. And here we are in 2025 with everything that's going on in that organization and against that organization. So many things that they could address and be addressing and making right. And all they do is give permission to clink glasses. That showed me where their priorities are and how much control they want, how much control they have. They have a little bit over 8 million people hypnotized, ready to do anything. They said you need to be so obedient to us, even if you don't understand something or it sounds strange, you still obey us. And that's what they have. They have so much mind control, and they can pretty much do and say what they want, adjust what they want, and the sheep just take it. The majority of the people in that organization just take it and adjust. And there are those of us that, we do a lot of critical thinking. We ask questions. We do what they said in a lot of their assembly parts and convention parts and watchtower lessons. They said we had to put our faith to the test, or in other words, sometimes we might need to question ourselves. Why are we doing this? Do I really believe what I'm hearing? They used to tell us to do that, but as soon as you do, and I'm talking to a lot of ex witnesses, they same thing happened to me. It's like when you have too many questions, they take it as you're causing ripples. I've heard elders, I know it's a couple of people, like in congregations I've been in, who've had doubts and questions, and they ask, well, why do we have to do it like this, or why is that a rule? And you know what the elders label them? And I've heard them talking amongst each other, and a few have even said it to me. They call those trouble publishers. Yeah. And when I first heard that, it made me feel some type of way. But yeah, they take it as you are causing ripples, you're being unfaithful, and that you may contaminate other members of the congregation with your crazy talk. All things I've heard firsthand from elders. But yeah, they consider those who think a lot and question. A lot of elders label them as a trouble publisher, meaning you give the elders headaches. I quickly learned that just from hanging around different elders, and so it's discouraged. They say one thing from the platform, but in reality, in real life, they discourage critical thinking. They discourage when you question and doubt. I remember one. Oh man, um, this was in the '90s, and one sister during the Watchtower lesson, she was very sincere, wasn't trying to be an ass or anything, and she raised her hand after a couple of people had commented, and she said, "I just don't quite understand this point, brother. Can you please explain it to me? Like, I don't really agree with what it's saying." Oh my goodness. I thought his ears were gonna they turned so red, I thought they were gonna like explode and pop off the sides of his head. But yeah, he just looked at her and he was like, "Sister, we'll talk after the meeting." And the mic was still at her. She's like, "I didn't mean any disrespect, but I honestly want to know, sister. We'll talk after the meeting." And yeah, but even if that may have been the wrong time for her to ask that, or she could have waited till after the meeting and approached an elder. Even though he could have, in my opinion, he could have been nicer and said, "That's a great question. I'd be happy to talk with you after the meeting about it." But see, he shut her down. And what do you think that may have done? In my opinion, what if it's somebody visiting because it's a public meeting on Sunday? What if someone is visiting a study, or what if it's others like us who have critical thinking and doubts? And to see an elder shut her down like that, coldly and flat, move on, some might think, huh, maybe she was right. And so it to me it was just handled wrong. But it just again reiterated to me that they don't like you to ask too many questions. And I gave them headaches when I was because one of the things I had the privilege of was being like over the attendance at the Kingdom Hall. And if it was something, that I had a question about or wasn't comfortable about, didn't like, or put one of the brothers in a bad situation, I'm always up in the elder's face, like trying to work it out. And it was so much because okay, we moved to having three different attendants. One in the auditorium, one was in the foyer, and then we had an entrance attendant to watch the door that stayed locked during meetings. And so, I'm working with all these brothers, all these different personalities, and sometimes the elders would have these. To me, it was just like two. It was like the Kobe and the secretary, and they had these little quirks. And I always had to keep my binder with our instructions from the branch that every elder had. I had to keep it in a binder that I used to carry around with me. And sometimes I would get these elders, and they come with their little quirks. And I'm just, I'm a ministerial servant, so I'm very respectful, and I just show them, to remind them that we can't start shooting off these little different man-made rules over our guidelines that we have from the branch. And some would thank me and thank me for being respectful because I was always respectful to the elders. And some you could tell like it bothered them. Like, I was just supposed to do what they said. And, they thinking for yourself, even if it's trying to do what's right and to take up for other friends is, yeah, frowned upon. It's an intimidation thing that's taught. They always say, everything, whether you're at work or a congregation, is only as good as the people at the top. And so the governing body started all that, fear mongering and making you feel like you need. Just one of my friends make a video. He made a video, and it was like a bunch of, from the broadcast and those morning talks, and as the brothers, whoever was giving it, it was just a bunch of negative words that they say over and over and over: anxiety, pressed, fearful, just like all kind of negative words like that. And he spliced the clip together for like 30 seconds, and it just boggled your mind. But try to keep you down, but lift you up just enough with what you're studying and going over in the meetings. But then they're also making you dependent on them and making it so you feel more comfortable conforming than you do asking a question. And you when you're in that mindset, oh, you don't even want to give any suspicion that you have any doubts of any kind. And so that mindset trickles down, to the circuit overseers and to the body of elders. And, they just don't like that much resistance. They take it as you're a problem publisher or a problem pioneer, and seeing just being the son of an elder and just watching and listening. And, sometimes one or two elders wouldn't mesh with the body. And they always wanted, just different things. What I was talking about earlier, the quirks and bringing personal, like, additions to rules and guidelines. It would be those type going against the grain of the body, and it will just cause all kind of problems. And that's just how it is in that organization, especially the control part. Because again, with the using the toasting new light as an illustration, what did he say, Brother Let? Um, therefore we came to the conclusion, and blah 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 that about the clinking and the toasting. Should have stopped there, but what did he do? Do you remember? He had to add that essence of control into it. Because what he had said so far, friends, okay, we can toast and cheer, okay, okay. And then he came with the big butt. And he was like, would every occasion be appropriate to toast or cheer? And, he was like, of course not. So that puts that little control. And you know what that'll do? That'll give congregations even more to have a division. Because, it's always, in my experience, that when you had a congregation gathering, you would have the majority okay with a lot of things like the music playing, but then you might have one or two people that lose their shit over a certain song because of an artist. And I remember, I'm at one gathering and I think they started to play Beat It by Michael Jackson. And it was about, you could just see him in the crowd, their head turn, looking at the stereo system. And yeah, they ran up there, no, take that off. That's Michael Jackson. We don't listen to him. And they got into it about it. And so, can you imagine those, excuse me, excuse me. Can you imagine those type of friends? You're at an event and say there is, the toasting, the clinking, and the cheering. And you're going to have that one or two brother zealot, and he's going to be like, this was totally not the right occasion to have that go on. You know how they talk. They always sound like they on a damn drum at the convention. You know good and well that was not the appropriate occasion. And so it's like I see that happening. That is going to cause um, division and people like one group saying it was okay, another group saying it wasn't. I just think it's going to be more trouble, um, just because he added that little caveat at the end. But that's what they do. They're big on that control, and it trickles down. But yeah, the new light, it's a glorified way to say, "Hey, we messed up again," or as myself and a lot of the other ex-witnesses feel, we feel that they just want to throw something out there, like throw a bone out, because of all the CSA cases that they're losing, you know, and like it that upsets us because you have all these victims that have fallen prey to predators within congregations, and a lot of these the elders know what type of person this is, but they don't tell anyone. So this person is still free to mingle with the congregation, even kids, and they are losing court cases. You know, if you're a witness on here and you don't believe me, please look it up. The internet is a wonderful thing when you use it right. All public records, Pennsylvania, Australia, Montana, California, to name a few. But there are a lot of cases and governments wanting the names of these predators that the elders and the branch and the governing body know. They have a database at headquarters with these names, but they won't hand it over. They're saying it's privilege. Like when a person confesses, since they're considered ministers or religious leaders, they're not obligated to tell the authorities. Like I said, they're losing court cases left and right and settling out of court with victims. So we think, me and my friends think it was just like, here's a little treat, leave us alone, take the attention off of everything. Because when witnesses get rules lifted, it's like big celebrations. So yeah, the new light, it sucked. You know, hearing it in a Watchtower study or um, an announcement that's made, or they say it like they did on the broadcast now. They like to do it on updates, and it'll always leave a bad taste in my mouth. And the first thing people will say, these aren't perfect men. You act like they're perfect. And that's not even a valid argument point because everyone knows they're imperfect. The governing body even always say they're imperfect. Like, that's not even a valid arguing point. But that's what they like to yell out. No one ever said that the governing body was perfect. That's not even the point. But a lot of people deflect from what's really going on. And it is just a huge scam. It's like different generations, and you can look back, different generations, they had focal points that was going to be the end. And that's what these groups were working towards, that end. They thought the end was coming in 1914. And that's what those Bible students was working towards. And when nothing happens, if you're one of the leaders or the leaders, what do? You have to make amendments. Oh, we have new light. The end wasn't coming in 1914. It was a war in heaven, and now Jesus is king. That's what was going to happen. Jehovah changed it on us. And so, you know, different generations in the organization have different focal points that they were looking towards. 1975 was another year. In the 90s was another. And now it's just been all about right around the corner. We're in the last days. We're in the final part of the last days. They have to keep the gimmick going, and people, they keep falling for it. But there are a lot of people waking up. Somebody was showing me the statistics, and it is more ex witnesses for whatever reason, whether you walked away, whether you got disfellowship, disapproved, for whatever reason, there are more of us than there are active witnesses. And that tells you something. It's a lot of people wake up. Some that I'm talking to, they were young when they woke up. Some late teens, some early 20s, some in their 30s, and they have a family, and the whole family, agree and walk away. Like, people are waking up. People are tired of being duped, and for anyone, they always wonder, and I'm always clear about this in my videos, but I didn't lose faith in God. I have nothing against God, nothing against Christ. My whole the reason I do what I do daily on all my accounts and the podcast is I'm not agreeing with the governing body, their helpers, or some elders in congregations that knowingly hide predators or let them. They don't call the authorities when the authorities need to be involved, and so that's what I'm going against. I'm not even like witnesses. I don't care if a person chooses to be a Jehovah's Witness. I talk to them daily when they pop up on my posts, even though they're not supposed to. I still talk to them if they're respectful. We have a nice conversation. They want to know why I do what I do. I answer them, and I refer them to videos they can look at that's pinned on the top of my TikTok account where I explain in 3 videos why. You know, is some who say, "Well, I love Jehovah. I will never stop serving him. I'm always loyal to Jehovah." And you know what I told him? I was like, "I applaud you for having a conviction for something. Like, I'm not against Jehovah's Witnesses. I feel bad for all of them. I want all of them to wake up. I know they won't, but I'm just trying to do my part to have people think, to plant a seed of reason. But I'm not telling people like they come on our accounts telling us we need to stop. You need to come back to Jehovah. Like, I don't operate like that. I don't tell people what to do. I'm just presenting facts to you and reasoning with people. And like I tell everybody, do with that what you will. Some, it goes right over their head. Some could care less. It's everyone's different. I'm just trying to reach those that might start thinking critically or, um, they have doubts and, you know, they may put some action behind that if they hear the right thing from one of us ex Jehovah's Witnesses that's online. So, yeah, that's why I do what I do and daily. And I just want to bring awareness to people. And that's what was on my mind this evening, just that new light scam. Jehovah doesn't change like that. Jehovah communicates with no one on earth. It just doesn't happen. And, they say they gather together in a room and they pray and they pray and they read and they read and they pray and they pray. And that's God's spirit guiding them to come up with this new light. It doesn't work like that. The Bible's been the same. You interpret it to us this way. And then when that way doesn't work out for you or your purposes, whatever they may be at the time, you switch up and you go another direction and label it new light. So, yeah, new light does not fly with me. I would love to hear you all's thoughts about it. Y'all always leave me great comments under my videos, and we have discussions there. If you want to email me, feel free to do that. EXJW1, that's EXJDUB, the number one, at gmail.com. You can reach me on um, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. TikTok is the most active and the largest community I have um, online of ex Jehovah's Witnesses. But for all of those, just look me up for XJDub, EXJDUB on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm on Reddit also. So, yeah, look me up, join the conversation, join the community. Um, Thousands of ex Jehovah's Witnesses that are friendly, nice, very personable, and we all have our own unique, interesting stories. Some of them come with a lot of pain, but we're there for each other to keep one another lifted up. So, yeah, join me, or you can stay here and communicate with me here. Like I said, I enjoy all the comments and responding. So, yeah, let me know what you think about New Light. What's your take on New Light? Do you buy it? Did you not buy it, and that's why you're an XJW? Let me know in the comments, and please like and share this video, please. I appreciate it. I'm growing, and I want to keep on growing so I could get the word out there. All right. So until next time, y'all stay good. All right.